Hello, good people. Welcome to our show. Bad people, welcome to our show. Anyone who wanna learn more about data, GA4, Google Analytics 4, welcome because today we are going to discuss how you can simplify your experience to adapt to this analytics because many webmasters still have this struggle. I think I can feel it's like when you change your car. You can buy a new car with new features, simple experience, but you have habit to use the old car, even if it's harder to drive old car, you know how to do it. That's why today we are going to discuss how you can drive GA4 with Nidhal Firoze. How are you?
Doing well, Anatoly. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing great. Looking forward to learn more. I can't tell that I'm an expert with GA4, but I spent some time to click features, buttons, anything there. So I learned. So and looking forward to learn more because I think this analytics can bring a lot of data, new data like engagement rate. Yeah, we didn't have the same rate before. Nidal, before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and anything that can help our listeners to learn more about you.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me here. And hopefully, I get to share some things about GA4 that you were not aware about. So maybe there's like one or two good takeaways for yourself as well as for everyone who's listening in. So thanks to all for tuning in. I can quickly introduce myself. I'm Nidhal Firoze. I'm based out of Dubai. I'm an analytics strategist and consultant, currently working with InfoTrust, leading an analytics team. We are mostly in the CPG, we are supporting the CPG industry team. So consumer packaged goods or fast moving consumer goods. It's also called FMCG in some other parts of the world. That's where mostly my strengths and expertise working with industry clients lie. Previously, I've worked with data visualization extensively. I had during COVID lockdown. Fun fact: I had a data analytics workshop, a Tableau workshop, which I was hosting with another partner of mine, and we did teach Tableau to a lot of students and working professionals during that I believe 4 to 5 month period. Apart from that, I'm extensively also involved with the Digital Analytics Association. I've contributed contents. I've done a couple of workshops. I've done a couple of talks. This is my second time on a podcast, I think. Yeah. So far, the journey with GA4 has been not so easy. There's been some challenges. We have been helping our clients do the migration, but there's a lot to look forward to as well. With all the updates that are coming up and trying to mitigate new challenges. So that's a bit about me.
Yeah, nice, nice. Love it. Awesome, awesome. Great. Okay, can you tell where we need to start? Okay, I think it's not hard to set up this analytics. You can open the old one and you can get the way how you can set up new one. Not hard, but can you tell how to start learning about GA4 and if you know some struggles with setup as well, you can share. But I'm interested how to do it from scratch.
Sounds good. I think one of the questions I get asked a lot from people who are trying to get into digital analytics in general, Google being one of the giants out there, Google Analytics has got majority of market share, right? It has a free versus a paid version or a 360 version, and a lot of small and medium businesses that I've worked with supporting small and medium businesses also to get onboarded to GA4. They've all tried to migrate to GA4, and one of the questions I get asked a lot is, is it a simple switch from UA to GA4? Is it just an upgrade? Is it something that I can just flip on a switch and everything gets moved over? And the short answer is it is not. It is a completely different setup. You need to set it up from scratch, and there are ways to make that transition easier. Google has the setup assistant, which can be used to link your previous Universal Analytics property to a new Google Analytics 4 property, and then import some of the connections, such as if you were using a Google Ads integration, you can bring that over easily. There are a few other settings that you can bring over easily, but it is not the same entity. The data collection happens in Google Analytics. If you're familiar, it happens in a property. The Universal Analytics property and the GA4 property are completely different, entities, which means that one, data will not automatically get migrated over, and then two, it will start collecting data only from the date that you set it up. So in terms of someone who's new to GA4, what I would recommend is going through some free resources available, right? That's one thing I love about Google. There's a lot of free resources available out there. I started my journey with Google Analytics and my learning using Skillshop, or the Google Analytics Academy. These are a couple of places I'd recommend you check out. All you need is a Google account to set up your profile, and then go through some recordings. There's also certifications available there. So if you are a beginner, if you're trying to understand, that would be one good place to start. Um, yeah, that's just a couple of like starting points, I'd say.
Nice, nice. Let's talk about metrics that we can learn from GA4. I mentioned about engagement, and bounce is different compared to others. I remember when Google announced about GA4, we didn't get this data, but then Google decided to bring it back, and but it's different. It's different calculation. And can you tell about engagement? How to learn this metric? How it can help us to decide what to do next? I mean, like to create content or marketing messages.
Yeah, absolutely. Engagement rate, like you mentioned, is a new metric that's available in GA4. The best part about engagement rate is that it's a metric that you can customize, right? It does not have the same standard definition across all configurations. The definition is the same. However, what there are some tweaks that you can make in your configurations, which makes engagement rate work differently for you. Now, let me explain that a bit further. The definition of engagement rate is the percentage of people that visited on your site that at least made maybe one conversion event, or spent a certain amount of time on your website, at least I think a few seconds, close to like ten seconds or something. There's a duration factor in there. And then lastly, the amount of pages that were visited, at least more than one page. So that's considered as an engagement, in terms of the percentage of the overall other visits. Now, how can you customize that to your business model? The way you have defined the conversion events can ensure that somebody who is staying on a page for example, for a certain amount of duration, or maybe someone who has scrolled through an article, if that needs to be considered as a conversion, then you can enable a custom conversion which says if someone has scrolled 75% of the article, that can be considered as a conversion, and that considers it to be an engaged session. For example, think about Wikipedia. If you look at Universal Analytics, you had bounce rate. Wikipedia would have a very high bounce rate because most people would land on a page, they go through the stuff, and then they just exit. They wouldn't go through like additional pages. Some folks do, but most users don't. So it would have a high bounce rate, right? But when you look at GA4, now you can customize a scroll or the amount of time spent on the page as a conversion, and accordingly you can define that if somebody has spent so much time, probably they have gone through the content. If someone has scrolled through the content, they've engaged with the content a bit, and that can be considered as an engagement or an engaged session, instead of as a bounce session. The one other thing I will also call out is GA4 focuses more on active users than just users who are like visiting a website. When I say active users, this is factors such as, is the browser tab in the foreground? It's not just one of like 30 different tabs that just kept in the background, right? So it looks at those type of factors also to consider active or engaged users, and that's the more meaningful metric, right? As compared to like anybody who just like clicks and lands on a page.
Mhm. Yeah. I wanna ask about metrics that you think it's important to consider. Because, for example, what I found when you share a lot of metrics to customers who are not familiar with data, who uh, can know some metrics but not good with them, and I see when some metrics can mislead, then help, because people don't understand how they work. And I'm interested which metrics you think it's important to know from your experience. It's better to consider them and learn from them, and which metrics are less important, probably we can skip, or I don't know, or don't pay so much attention to them.
Sure. There's two parts to this question. Now, if a user was using Universal Analytics, now if a user is still continuing to use Universal Analytics, it's not a good idea, I would say.
Yeah.
We still have users using, the 360 version is like got another year to go. So there are still people using the UA 360 version. Um, if you are using Universal Analytics, the metrics that I would mention to you would be different from the users that are using GA4. Now, the reason being that the metric definitions are different between Universal Analytics and GA4. uh, Now that's one call out. The second call out, which is the more important, the more significant one, is that I would give different answers to different people depending on what type of industry they are in, what type of business they are in. And that's where I think this is a very relevant question of, how do you choose the metrics? Do you let the metrics derive your business decisions, or do you let your business decisions or the business objectives drive your metrics? And that's going back to the fundamentals of data collection. Like any data point that you want to collect using Google Analytics, there should be a question asked in the beginning or the foundation stage, that should I actually collect this form submission or the number of people who clicked on different menu icons? How is that adding value to me? So in summary, I would not specifically say that these are the specific metrics you should always use. I would say, not just rely on the custom, sorry, the standard out of the box metrics that are available in GA4, but also rely on custom dimensions, custom metrics that will explain exactly, that's designed to fit your business model or your business objectives. So that's where I could go on talk about all the standard metrics out there, like page views, bounce rate, conversion rate, or average time spent on a page, or the number of page depth or a session depth, which is the average number of pages. But what really matters is understanding how are you planning to evaluate the quality of the web user journey, and which are the metrics that matter. Now, that's a very high level answer. I didn't touch anything there, but I let me add an example to it, right? For
Yeah.
example, if there's I work very closely with the CPG space. A lot of CPG websites that I work with, they may not have e-commerce enabled on the website. They might redirect you to a nearby retailer or a retail store, right? And then there's probably a button that helps you locate a store nearby. That is a key conversion event. That the number of people, out of all the people who visited the website, the number of people who landed on that specific page and then clicked on locate the nearby store, that's going to be critical information. Those are you know uh, more likely users that went to a store and purchased. Again, there's the problem of stitching that data together. There's some of that transaction happens offline, but eventually those are the key events that you need to measure, and those are not available in GA4 out of the box. That's where you need to customize what you collect and then decide that, okay, these are the specific interactions. Maybe if performed in a certain order, that makes sense. Or if there's a specific value, if there's a specific product category that somebody chooses and adds to cart, that makes more sense. You can define your conversions or custom conversions in that way, and then and then report on that and then monitor that and then see, okay, how can I drive more of my users to start doing that specific conversion. So that would be my sort of more detailed answer, also adding in a couple of examples.
Nice, nice. Can you describe more about events? Can you tell how to learn from events, how to choose? I mean, not to choose. I mean, like uh, to think how events can help to increase sales, conversion rate, and anything like that.
Sure, absolutely. Events are the fundamental data model, in GA4, event-based data collection. Every interaction that a user makes on the website is considered as an event. In Universal Analytics, you did have events. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Universal Analytics is GA3, or the version of GA that is just, that just got sunset. I don't know if you heard about it in the news. We did have a lot of people meeting together just to like talk about the Universal Analytics sunset, and how it was a tool that shaped up a lot of our careers and the industry also, right? But if you compare between Universal Analytics and GA4, UA had events, but it had a very rigid structure. Now, if you have deployed UA tracking, you would know that events would have event category, action, and label. These are just metadata or additional context about the event. Uh, Taking one step back, what is an event? It's any interaction that you do on the website, be it a scroll, be it a click on a specific button, be it a submission of a form, be it the signing in, or if you are selecting a menu or changing the locale. All of those interactions that you do, watching a video, etc., all of that could be an event. Now, with GA4, every interaction that you do with the website, including the loading of the page itself, is by default an event. So everything is an event. And one of the reasons Google did that is, originally, if you remember, when GA4 came up, it was at a certain point in time, it was called GA app and web, GA app plus web. And the reason why it was called so is because app data usually has a different data model, and web data has a completely different data model. Google wanted to unify the data model for both of these digital platforms so that you can combine and collect all of that data into one place. And that's one of the key sort of selling points for GA4. If you are a digital business that is extensively involved in both app channels as well as website channels, then you can collect and combine that data into one place. And event is what stitches it together, because in apps, everything used to be an event. The notification, if you clicked on a in-app notification, that is an interaction, that's an event. And similarly, on the website, if you go to a specific page and then click on something there, that's an event. So to talk about one other way in which events are more optimized in GA4, you can connect an event with n number of parameters. I think up to 20-25 parameters, right? And these are all parameters that can give additional context about the event. In Universal Analytics, you had just 3 parameters and then additional custom dimensions, but it's not a flexible sort of structure. In GA4, it's more flexible. If you are defining, for example, if you have a blog, and then there's the name of the author, that can be a parameter, and then that parameter can be reused across different events. So there's a mix and match, or a structure that's more flexible, so that you define lesser overall number of parameters, and then you associate those with the respective different events. I don't know if that was a bit confusing, but if you look at it in an implementation sheet or in an Excel sheet, that's how we usually show it to our clients. Um, that makes a lot more sense. That makes it things much easier to track and then reuse existing elements across different event types, and then be
Yeah.
more efficient about data collection.
Yeah, each case is different. I agree with you. And you mentioned about customization. That I mean, like that we can't learn data and from metrics, uh, I mean, like equally for each project, because it depends on the project, what kind of content we have, goals, and many other things. And can you tell how to find, for example, I see when people can complain, for example, bounce rate is high. When I check out content, I see probably customers find phone number or any other form. It's enough for them, to leave this page. It doesn't mean that you need to retain them like 10 minutes to tell about simple thing. So it depends. Can you tell how to stand out from the rest? I mean, like we have the average data, and I see when companies learn from the average data, but each case is different. Can you tell how to find this difference between average data and your personal case to decide what to do next?
Yeah, it's again another sort of commonly asked question, right? About benchmarks, like what does the industry follow? Like what is the average bounce rate for this type of industry? And we want to see compare. In a lot of scenarios, that's not easily comparable because there's a lot of factors that go into how much an actual conversion rate boils out to be for an organization, right? But in essence, I think that's also where the event model comes in, adding that context for any type of event that you're analyzing. If for example you mentioned checkout, uh, are you breaking it down in your reports and seeing what is the associated information along with that? We've seen that sometimes you can use a browser, something very, something that you would imagine you would never have to use in your reports, like a browser version, to identify whether some of that is bot traffic, right? Because we've observed this time and again with bots, there's specific locations where bots usually originate from. Sometimes there's several cities, like Ashburn is an example. There's a lot of bot traffic. There's Amazon bot traffic that gets originated from specific locations. There's specific screen resolutions and browser versions, things like that you can check to see if there's a if it is uh, bot traffic, which obviously you should exclude. And GA4 also has some known bots get excluded. But basically what I'm trying to say is add more context into your data points when you're collecting them, and then being able to use that in reports to slice and dice the data to see if do I need to be really worried about lesser numbers. And then another area where we have seen a lot of consumers expressing concern over lesser numbers is the recent surge in the need to deploy consent on websites. So you see all the cookie banners. There are browsers these days that will help you sort of bypass those cookie banners, like not even show those cookie banners, accept or reject by default. But that's another area where the moment uh, you deploy a cookie consent banner, you see a drop in traffic, which basically is not an actual drop in traffic, but it's a drop in observable traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another sort of area where we talk. I think another privacy is at the center of like GA4, right? So that's another area where we could maybe also talk a bit about the
Mm-hmm.
consent and how numbers can be lesser, and a lot of people are concerned about lesser numbers in their reports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. I wanna ask you how you transfer data to your customers. It's interesting because I see, sometimes I can provide over data to my customers. They don't know what to do. It might confuse. And according to some data online, some studies that companies implement 40% of all recommendations. Basically, if they pay like $10,000 to you, 6,000 are wasted because they have no time, resources, or don't understand how to do it. So I'm interested your methods how to simplify the experience of learning from data. For example, if you have a customer who wants to know how to go ahead, what to do, but when you provide this data, they don't know what to do. So your tips how to transfer this data in the correct way, even more. No, for example, sometimes we need to share data with some employees, and they need to bring this data to stakeholders, other departments. So, any tips about that?
Yeah, it's a common problem. How do you communicate those insights in a way that, one, it's actionable, and then, two, it is not sort of missed, in all the other details that you're sharing with them. So you need to sort of highlight the key insights. You need to make sure that there's sufficient call outs, or you're using some data visualization techniques. That's one way to do it, right? There's a way to differentiate your significant call outs. So if I am to deliver a presentation to one of my clients, sharing data insight summary, I've done this in my previous roles as a data analyst or a campaign analyst. There's slides and slides of data. I get 5 minutes during a 30 minutes call to present insights, right? And how do you make that impactful? What I've tried to do is, if I had like 10 columns in an Excel sheet that I would like take a screenshot, put it in a slide, and show it to them, it's overloading with them with information, like you said earlier with your example. Now, what would I do? Um, I try to create some calculated columns out of it, which will give you maybe a percentage value that makes more sense, and then remove all the data that does not add value, or that does not, that's just adding on too many information to process, too much information to process. So that's one thing I would do. I just try to summarize. That's where data visualization also comes into the picture. It's to summarize and see everything from a higher level, or a bird's eye view, so that you can really focus on the key, maybe the 80-20 rule, the 80 percentage of the areas where, the impact can be made, as compared to the remaining 20 percentage that may not really make sense analyzing, deep diving, or spending too much time there. So yeah, that's a couple of recommendations there. Use data visualization principles, and then, um, try to not give a lot of, like, in terms of volume, do not try to give like 10 to 15 insights. Boil it
Yeah.
down to 2 to 3 insights, something they can do right away, something they can make a slight change in right away and observe results in like maybe 2 to 3 months time. So give them, maybe you could split it into like short term, these are the items that you can do, and then longer term, there will be others that will require a lot of like changes, more budget, team changes, and stuff like that. But what are some of those quick wins? Go ahead and tackle them maybe right after this meeting. Just go and try to change this, tweak this up, and see how the campaign performs differently, for example.
Nice, nice. I wanna ask about extra tools that we can use. I mean, like GA4 is great, but we have other tools that can provide extra insights, like Adobe Analytics, HubSpot, SEMrush, Ahrefs, many other tools that can mix data from different analytics, to provide in one user-friendly environment. So, can you tell which tools do you use to get more data, and how you unite all this data with GA4?
Yeah. Specifically talking about GA4, and I think that's probably a very relevant question for me, because I work with InfoTrust, which is an agency. We are a Google partner, and most of the tech that we work with is in the Google ecosystem. So, and that's also the best way to like work with GA4 data, right? You can stitch it with visualization tools like Google Looker Studio, which was earlier known as Google Data Studio, but recently they rebranded as Looker Studio. And these are like native integrations, because they are all in the Google ecosystem. That's always sort of the best way to like integrate that data together, because they're all in the same ecosystem. In the cloud platform, we also have BigQuery. So a lot of our clients are leveraging the BigQuery extract, and that's if you also ask the analytics community, the industry, the veterans who have been using analytics since a while, uh, this is one thing that everybody almost agrees on, that the ability to extract or get all the data out of GA4 and into BigQuery is one of the best features available in GA4, right? Because that gives you a lot of ability to slice and dice that data, see the raw data, and then use it for a lot of other applications. Maybe also, I know that there are clients that also leverage the data stored in BigQuery to then pull it out and maybe put it into like a Power BI report, or a Tableau report, for example. So one easy, couple of basic integrations that I would say. One is BigQuery. Secondly, the Looker Studio, if you want to like use dashboards or visualizations directly from Google Analytics. There's also custom reporting available within GA4, which is also one of the sort of the selling points and the key differentiator from Universal Analytics, right? It has Explore reporting. Um, so there's reporting abilities inside GA4 itself. And then a couple of others would be Google Search Console. If you want to look at organic search data, one call out: if you are integrating Google Search Console reports, the reports in GA are not available by default. You have to like edit the configuration, the settings, or the collection report collection settings to make that report available. But yes, you can do that integration, and then all the media platforms like Google Ads, Display Video 360, search ads, for bringing in your campaign information and seeing an end-to-end view of, okay, from impressions till final conversion on the website, what's the end-to-end sort of user journey.
Nice, nice, valuable. Okay, let's talk about mistakes. I usually make a lot of mistakes. Some of them terrible, some of them slight mistakes, but that's okay. No, it's part of the marketing process. I think everyone makes mistakes to learn from them. But can you list mistakes that companies can avoid by using GA4? But you see, they usually do these mistakes to learn from them. But what mistakes we can avoid?
Yeah, really good question. I think the largest mistake, and the one big mistake I would ask to avoid, is to bring in, try to replicate Universal Analytics in GA4. Let's not try to do that, because what we have seen is Universal Analytics configurations that are at least 3 to 4 years old will have a lot of outdated events, a lot of technical debt that we do not want to migrate all the way over to GA4. It's an opportunity to reset. A lot of organizations are not looking at it that way. They're looking at it as a way, as an additional pain point, a new tool to deal with, and all the additional challenges that come with it. Instead of that, there's the concept of data minimization, which is also part of some of the regulations in the Europe region, right? Like GDPR. Data minimization, in essence, is the concept of collecting the bare minimum amount of data that you actually require with a purpose, a specific business purpose, and then keeping it with you for only as long as you need it. A lot of privacy or data breaches or data violations are associated with a company that has collected data and kept it in their databases for much longer than they actually need it. And they've also collected different data points that they do not need, only because they asked the wrong question: what is the different data points that we can collect about the consumer, and then let's bring it all in, and then let's decide what to do with it later, right? It's a wrong approach to do. With GA4, one area which I would always focus on, or which I would always also sort of recommend to my clients, is, if you're asking me to collect 10 data points, do you really need all of those 10 data points? If one of them is a personal information attribute, then think twice. GA is strictly against collecting personally identifiable information, but we have seen in some cases that data either accidentally or unintentionally getting captured, and then you have to delete that data, for example. So data minimization is the core concept I'd like to focus on. Think twice how much, what are the data points you want to collect, and then how long you want to collect it. Data retention is a setting that's available in GA4, which helps you tweak for how long you want to let that data stay in your servers. Yeah,
Yeah.
these are a couple of like recommendations that I have.
Nice, nice. I wanna ask about your experience. For example, we usually cooperate with clients who understand SEO. So if they understand, then we can cooperate like a cohesive team. If they don't, I tell them, take my course, learn from Lily Ray, Jeff Coyle, Mike Phillips, Chelsea Alves, many great experts. Go to Google, YouTube, just learn, get the basic. Because we can speak one language, we can go ahead. We know why we need to create high quality content, what kind of content to create, which data we need. And let's imagine you started today from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills. It's your first day in data analytics in GA4. What will you do today to learn completely from scratch?
That's a good question. That's a tricky one, because um, I've got into data not because I chose to. In a way, this was something I landed on because I loved numbers, and everything that I've learned is not through the traditional method of learning by following, doing an undergraduation in a data analytics specialization course or something like that. Whatever I've learned from getting into this career and into this sort of industry. So if I had to start from scratch, which is exactly what I did like almost 7 to 8 years back, what I did is, one, understanding business and business objectives, the business needs, is always more important than learning a tool or a technology or a platform. And I've always mentioned this to, I do mentorships on weekends. I've helped onboard a lot of college students and people who are switching from different other industries to data analytics, and this is one thing that I've told them. If you're asking me which is the tool that I need to learn uh, to get into data analytics, that's the wrong question. It's not about the tool, it's about the concept. It's about understanding the business needs, and that you cannot learn watching a YouTube video, getting understanding the business context. You need to get on the ground, you need to talk to people, you need to talk to your stakeholders. Now, one of the mistakes that I maybe talked about mistakes, I've made a lot of mistakes myself as well. That's the only way you learn, that's the only way you get really tested. One of the mistakes I made is assuming that these are the metrics, or these are the widgets that would make more sense in a client dashboard, and then show it to them, and then hear that, okay, that's completely not, exactly not what they're looking for, because I did not ask them this question in advance. There's something known as the stakeholder interviews, where I could have gathered more clarity, asked a couple of why questions into, what are some of their business objectives, needs, data collection requirements, which I think, if you are getting into this career in the beginning, what you need to do is talk to your clients, talk to the team members, try to understand business context, and then you can always supplement it with the different tool knowledge, and there's always that information available. But how to do something is not as important as a question as why would you do it. So that's where the business context and the understanding really matters.
Nice, nice. And I have final question about the future. I have my crystal ball. It didn't work. I tried a few times. I bought crypto, and I failed to earn a lot of crazy money. Luckily, I never put all eggs in one basket,
Yep.
but I tried and failed. I think it's okay. I can learn from them that it's another niche, and I forecast many things, but I often fail, and that's okay. Anyway, I wanna ask you, take your crystal ball and let us know what kind of future will be according to new technologies that are coming fast, that change this world. We have AI, probably augmented reality will come with Apple, this headset. I don't know how it looks, but yeah, I'm excited to learn more about that. Anyway, technologies are changing the world, and many things that were relevant like 10 years ago, it's not the same today, but humans are the same. Psychology is the same. And I read a lot of marketing books. Yeah, I think people didn't change. We have everything the same, personalization, many other things that people had many years ago. But we have new technologies that can bring this data information in the right way. So I'm interested about your forecast. What kind of future will be and how we can adapt today to this possible future?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a lot that has evolved in the space that we are in the digital analytics space. If you look at maybe the early 1990s, the birth of the internet, and looking at how much we have progressed since then, there's been leaps and bounds of development in terms of the different technologies, the different data collection methodologies, and also if you look at the martech stack, there's umpteen amount of platforms and technology that you can learn, right? Some key changes that are observed in the digital ecosystem or the landscape. One is all the regulations that are coming into the picture, right? There's multiple regulations coming up. There's different countries that are sort of drafting their own data privacy protection regulations. um, in the US, almost every state will have a different sort of regulation. It's going to be a difficult territory to you know comply with regulations in multiple states. So I think Virginia recently came up with one. The significant one, the one that most people would remember or call out, is the California one, CCPA. In Europe, GDPR was the one that started and kicked off a whole new sort of world of conversations around consent, the importance of letting a end user have control of their data. So privacy is going to be at the center of the marketing strategy for most organizations. That is one key change that we are observing. That's also something that at Infotrust we are helping organizations have privacy embedded at the center of what they do every day, right? And then directly related to that is consumer trust. The ability for a consumer to trust an organization depends on different perceptions, but at the end, it's a factor of how well an organization is being transparent about how the different data collection practices and the data usage policies, etc. Secondly, we are seeing a huge increase or uptick in organizations moving towards a first party data strategy, or also using server side tagging. Traditionally, how data analytics started off, or digital analytics started off, is with client side tracking. But now more organizations are moving towards server side tracking, primarily because that gives them more control of how data can be manipulated, and any unreasonable manipulations can be prevented, to have control of data on a server that you're hosting on your own, rather than leveraging other sort of third parties. So these are a couple of major industry shifts. The world is moving towards data privacy, and also some privacy safe measurement strategies, such as server side tagging. But yeah, I think we could easily get outdated if we don't go with the flow, right? Like you said, it's important to keep track of what's going on in the industry, what's new. So this is an industry that's evolving at a very quick pace. So someone who's new will need to stay up to date. I think there are different ways to do it, but uh, following industry veterans, listening to these types of podcasts, or following LinkedIn, Twitter. These are social platforms that where a lot of industry changes, the industry sentiments are also out there available for people to look at and infer. So yeah, that's a couple of shifts. Looking forward to how this industry is going to evolve. Thanks for the great conversation, by the way, and yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, valuable. Love it, love it. Uh, Tell the best way how to keep learning from you, how to reach out to you, how to follow you.
Sure. LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. So, you can just look up my name on LinkedIn. I think that should be helpful for, connecting. I also do one-on-one mentorships. If you want to get into data analytics career, understand a bit more about that. I've helped a lot of students and working professionals to move from something completely different as a civil engineering space to data analytics. So that those are completely different spaces, but I've helped people move into the industry. So if you need some advice, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. You should be able to find me by my name.
Nice. Guys, you can find the link to LinkedIn account in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again for your time. Love it. So valuable. Welcome back anytime to share more valuable insights. Probably GA5. I don't know what kind of future will be. But anyway, we are loving to learn more about data, because without data, you can't create awesome creative marketing message. Okay, guys, love you. See you.